My wife's male assistant embezzled my 5 million yuan year-end bonus, and even though my wife knew about it, she turned a blind eye. I decided to quit my job on the spot. The very next day, my wife called and said, "I'll pay you back the 5 million yuan." At those words, she broke down right then and there. I was standing outside the break room when I overheard Su Qing and Lin Hao talking. The revival of this 10 billion yuan project was the result of me pulling more than 300 all-nighters to see it through. The 5 million special year-end bonus promised by the group was supposed to be deposited into my personal account. At that moment, at Su Qing's instruction, the money was transferred to her trusted subordinate, Lin Hao. This bonus will be processed through the direct deposit channel and deposited directly into your account. Jiang Yi is a patient and reserved person. He'll keep things under wraps and won't make a big deal out of it. You've worked so hard for me all this time. Consider this money my way of making it up to you. I was standing at the corner of the hallway, still clutching the draft of the project postmortem I just printed. I felt my internal organs sinking in waves. We are husband and wife. They are also co-workers at the same company. I'm on the front lines, tackling the toughest technical challenges and project risks. As the department manager, Su Qing has taken credit for my achievements and reaped all the glory that comes with her management role. I never make a fuss about who gets the credit. But I never would have imagined that she would go so far as to dip into my special bonus. I took a step and walked straight into the break room. The two of them saw me and fell silent instantly. Lin Hao looked flustered and instinctively took half a step back. A look of surprise flashed across Su Qing's face, but she quickly regained her composure. "How did you get here?" Su Qing spoke, doing her best to maintain a managerial tone. "I came to pick up some project materials and just happened to overhear your conversation." My gaze fell on Lin Hao. "Has the 5 million special year-end bonus already been transferred to your account?" Lin Hao's lips trembled, and he didn't dare respond. Su Qing took a step forward and stood in front of Lin Hao. "It's not what you think. It's just a temporary loan. I'll pay you back later." "Who are you lending the money to? Are you lending it to Lin Hao to buy a house?" I looked Su Qing straight in the eyes. "The special year-end bonus is individual compensation for the project's key personnel. It is either funding that the department can allocate at will nor part of the family's joint assets." Su Qing furrowed her brow deeply. "Why do you have to put it so bluntly? Lin Hao has been by my side all these years and has shouldered his fair share of trivial matters, big and small. Is it wrong of me to want to give him a little something in return? Your salary isn't exactly low, why are you so fixated on those 5 million? The point isn't the 5 million. The point is, you kept this from me and disposed of the earnings from my labor without my knowledge. You're convinced I'm the type to keep my feelings to myself, and you're counting on me not to make a scene." Su Qing's expression grew colder and colder. "It's just money. Is it really worth making such a big deal out of it? We're a married couple. It's only natural that we share our household resources with each other. Adjustment does not equate to colluding with others to embezzle." I pulled out my phone. I had already recorded the entire conversation in the break room. I won't pretend this never happened. Cold sweat broke out on Lin Hao's forehead. "Jiang Yi, how about I transfer this money back to you right now? Posting this now is just a way to make up for it after I got caught. If I hadn't happened to overhear this conversation today, would that money have been entirely yours?" Lin Hao was at a loss for words. Su Qing continued to prioritize protecting her subordinates. "It's all my fault. It has nothing to do with Lin Hao. I'm the one who gave that order. If you're unhappy with it, take it up with me. I admit I handled it poorly, and I apologize to you. Let's leave it at that for now. We'll talk it over when we get back. An apology cannot undo what has already happened." I put my phone away. "I'm not going to stay here any longer and keep bailing you out." After saying that, I turned and left the break room. Behind him, Su Qing's voice called out after him. Jiang Yi, don't act on impulse. I didn't look back. Back at my workstation, I calmly organized all the materials. Project bonus agreements, financial transaction statements, and technical working papers, all categorized and filed. This isn't just a momentary outburst of anger. For a long time, I have been quietly resolving the flaws, risks, and client disputes in countless projects behind the scenes. Su Qing used the results I had achieved to solidify her position as manager. What happened today was the last straw for me. I wrote a handwritten resignation letter and provided a complete list of all tasks to be handed over. Every project I've handled, including the point of contact and risk points, is clearly documented. I won't take any of the company's assets with me, but I also won't stay here any longer and become a tool for others to pursue their own interests. Su Qing called right away. I just muted it. I stood up, took the entire set of documents, and walked toward the Human Resources Department. I walked into the Human Resources office area. The front desk clerk saw me and gave me a polite smile. Mr. Jiang, are you here to conduct some business? Process my resignation. My words are short and to the point. The smile on the receptionist's face froze instantly. Everyone throughout the entire company knows that I am the one who has contributed the most this year. The fact that this 10 billion yuan project was able to be revived is entirely due to my relentless efforts. No one expected that I, at the height of my success, would choose to resign voluntarily. The HR manager heard the news and hurried over, looking completely taken aback. Jiang Yi, this is no joke. The promotion plan has been finalized, and the group's commendation documents are all ready. If you quit now, the losses will be enormous. I laid out my resignation letter and the thick handover checklist on my desk. This is no joke. Your application takes effect immediately. I have compiled a complete list of all the documentation, coordination checklists, and risk records for the projects I've handled. Effective immediately, I will no longer assume any project responsibilities or participate in any business coordination. The supervisor looked down at the list. The page was densely packed with neatly organized entries. He realized instantly that I wasn't just throwing a tantrum. I had planned everything in advance. What exactly happened? Manager Su just called and said it was just a minor argument between you two. This is a private matter. There's no need to elaborate on it publicly. Please expedite the approval of my resignation in accordance with the procedure. The supervisor looked troubled, picked up his phone, dialed Su Qing's number, and put it on speakerphone. Su Qing's impatient, sharp voice immediately echoed throughout the room. He's just being moody. Don't approve it under any circumstances. I'll rush over right away and stop him. Once he calms down, everything will be fine. I reached out and turned off the speakerphone. Labor law does not provide that spouses may interfere with an employee's resignation. No one has the right to stand in the way of my resignation request. It must be finalized today. The supervisor looked troubled. Manager Su is a mid-level manager with extensive connections within the company. Taking a heavy-handed approach could damage your reputation in the industry. When I was pulling all-nighters to save the project, no one cared about my reputation. My personal bonus was secretly misappropriated, and no one took my feelings into consideration. I no longer need the kindness or judgment of the people here. I had the manager so flustered that he had no choice but to start the approval process. The sound of hurried high-heeled footsteps grew louder as they drew nearer. Su Qing burst in, her makeup already slightly smudged, her eyes brimming with anger. Lin Hao kept his head down and followed her awkwardly. Su Qing stood right in front of me and lowered her voice. Jiang Yi, are you done causing trouble yet? It's less than 5 million. I already told you it's just a temporary loan. Do you have to make a spectacle of this in front of everyone and make me lose face? You lent the money to Lin Hao to buy a house, right? Su Qing's face paled, but she quickly forced herself to adopt a stern demeanor. So what if that's the case? Lin Hao has worked hard alongside me for many years. What's wrong with me rewarding him? You already have a very high annual income. Why are you so fixated on this one sum of money? Can't you think a little more broadly? I can do without a grand vision. I'm giving this job up too. Su Qing's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected my stance to be so resolute. She quickly changed her strategy and played the marital card. We're married, so your income is already part of our joint family assets. I'm just managing our family's assets. Why are you fighting back in a way that could ruin your career? A special year-end bonus is considered personal compensation for services rendered. Since it has not yet been credited to the account, it does not constitute marital property. You're not reallocating assets. You're conspiring with others to embezzle my lawful income. Su Qing was left speechless by the rebuke, her face alternating between pale and red. Lin Hao steeled himself and stepped forward, adopting a humble demeanor. I was just being greedy. I haven't touched a single cent of that money. I'll transfer it all back right away. Please withdraw your resignation. You didn't move, you were too scared to move after it happened. If this hadn't come to light, you would have accepted that money without a second thought. You guys had it all planned out long ago, just waiting for me to take the hit without saying a word. Lin Hao's lips trembled uncontrollably, and he couldn't bring himself to say a word. Su Qing immediately took full responsibility for the incident, continuing to protect her subordinate. I was the one who arranged the whole thing. It has nothing to do with Lin Hao. If anyone's to blame, blame me. I admit I handled it poorly, and I apologize. Please withdraw your resignation letter, and let's go home and talk this through. An apology can't change what has already happened. You must accept the consequences of your actions. Su Qing's tone took on a threatening edge. Jiang Yi, think it through carefully. The vast majority of the customer channels and business resources you have now, I'm the one who helped you establish and laid the groundwork for them. If you insist on leaving today, you won't get very far in this industry in the future. Even if I can't take a single step, I'll accept it. Resources built on personal connections never belonged to me in the first place. I've made my mark in this industry through my skills, not by relying on anyone's charity. Starting over is better than constantly being stabbed in the back. The HR manager looked up at that moment. Jiangong, all the paperwork has been completed. Your resignation is now official, and all your system access privileges have been revoked. Su Qing froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. She had always thought that I, who had always been accommodating and compliant, would never dare to truly cut all ties. I took the resignation letter, folded it up, and put it in my bag. I didn't give Su Qing and Lin Hao another glance. I turned and walked out of the Human Resources Department. A stifled roar came from behind me. Jiang Yi, you're going to regret this! Without stopping, I walked straight out of the office building. The shackles that had weighed me down for so long were shattered by my own hands at that very moment. As soon as I walked out the company gate, I immediately blocked all of Su Qing's contact information. Phone, WeChat, and corporate communication accounts, all have been cut off. 3 years of marriage, 3 years of working together, all ties have been severed cleanly. I drove back to our newlywed home. Most of the furniture and appliances in the house were purchased with money I earned through hard work. I used to think this was a safe haven. But reality dealt me a harsh blow. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and packed only my personal clothes, documents, and technical drafts. I won't touch the wedding home, the appliances, or our joint savings at all. It's not out of leniency, but to preserve the integrity of the chain of evidence and avoid taking extreme measures. The door lock clicked, and Su Qing pushed the door open and walked back into her home. She followed me all the way home in her car. As soon as she walked in, she immediately confronted him. How long are you going to keep this up? I didn't stop packing my bags. I wasn't causing a scene. I was just quitting to cut my losses. 5 million. I've already ordered Lin Hao to return it to you via the same method. Once the money is in, we'll put this behind us. Come back to work, and everything will go on as usual. Su Qing spoke as if it were only natural. If the money is returned, does that mean everything that happened can be erased? What else can we do? Once the compensation for the losses is paid, we can turn a big issue into a small one. Jian, act more mature, don't let your emotions get the better of you. You still don't understand where my anger stems from. Su Qing looked impatient. I understand, you feel I'm showing favoritism toward my subordinates, and that's making you feel resentful. I've already made a concession by ordering him to refund the money. I've already backed down, what more do you want? You only gave in because you were forced to by the crisis. You don't truly recognize your mistake. You chose to back down because you were afraid that my resignation would trigger a chain reaction and that the situation would escalate and implicate you. You've never considered that allowing others to embezzle the fruits of my labor is wrong in and of itself. Su Qing's tone suddenly became shrill. Even if I handled it wrong, there's no need for you to ruin your bright future. Countless people are desperate to land this job. After quitting your job on a whim, you'll be faced with the pressure of mortgage and car loan payments. Have you thought about these practical issues? I work so hard to make money so I can live well, not to support someone else's selfish interests. If I quit this job, I can start over. If I were to abandon my principles, I would never be able to hold my head high. Su Qing was at a loss for words after I cornered her. After a brief silence, she played the emotion card once again. We've been married for exactly 3 years. Don't you care at all about what we've been through together? Promoting Lin Hao was simply to strengthen my team. There's nothing as sordid as you imagine. Do you really have to push the marriage to the point of breaking up? A small matter? I looked up at her. 5 million, the result of a project that took more than 300 all-nighters to complete. You just casually gave me away with a single offhand remark. Is that just a trivial matter to you? Su Qing avoided my gaze but continued to defend herself vehemently. I'm just filling in temporarily. When it comes to social obligations and building connections at home, isn't every single one of them handled by me? What's so wrong with me rewarding my subordinates? I'm done arguing over empty notions of right and wrong. I zipped up my suitcase and picked it up, ready to head out. Where are you going? Su Qing's expression instantly turned panicked, and she reached out to grab my wrist. I dodged to the side. Move out. Separation? Are you planning to get a divorce? Just because of this 5 million? It was never about the 5 million. Even though you clearly saw me being treated unfairly, you still chose to take the other person's side. You've taken my efforts for granted and recklessly trampled on my boundaries. Money can be returned, but trust can never be restored. Su Qing put all her arrogance aside and deliberately softened her tone. I admit I handled it the wrong way, and I'll never do that again. Don't go. Let's sit down and talk this through. I'd like to offer you my sincere apology. No need. I shook my head slightly. Your apology is just a ploy to coax me back, so I'll keep bailing you out. It wasn't a sincere expression of remorse. I walked toward the door. Su Qing stood right in front of the door, refusing to let him pass. His eyes were filled with reluctance, yet he still clung to a glimmer of hope. Jiang, if you leave now, you'll regret it sooner or later. Without my support, you won't be able to hold your own in this industry. When the day comes that you're crushed by the pressures of reality and come crawling back to me, I will never show you mercy again. We'll see. I reached out and gently pushed her aside, then stepped out the door. The heavy door slammed shut, sealing off this cold, hypocritical house. I know full well that Su Qing still hasn't come to her senses. She was convinced that I had only moved out on a whim, and was waiting for me to crack under the pressure of reality, and come around on my own. She's even already figured out that once I get back, she'll brush the whole thing off nonchalantly and keep manipulating me. But she won't understand that my leaving wasn't just a tantrum. I took away the most solid support she and Lin Hao had. As soon as I left, all the risks, loopholes, and project challenges that I had previously covered up were laid bare. The real trouble is just beginning to unfold. The day after I rented a minimalist apartment, the project at my former company completely fell apart. While I was employed there, I had full control over all core technical processes, risk contingency plans, and client liaison details. Su Qing and Lin Hao only learned the surface-level reporting procedures and never delved into the underlying core logic. As soon as I left the company, all the hidden problems came to a head. At 9 a.m. I got a call from a former coworker. The receiver was filled with anxiety. Jian Yi, the project has gone completely off the rails. Supply chain coordination has broken down, resulting in widespread errors in accounting data. The client has already issued a formal corrective action letter holding the company accountable. My tone was calm. I have already resigned and am no longer responsible for any project-related matters. We know you're quitting. My colleague grew increasingly impatient. You're the only one in the whole company who can step in and clean up this mess. Ever since managers Su and Lin Hao took over, the more they've tried to fix it, the more bugs they've created. Party A requires a revised proposal to be submitted within 24 hours. Otherwise, the partnership will be terminated and a substantial penalty will be imposed. They're the ones who took over the job, so naturally, they should be held accountable. After saying that, I hung up. Responsibility shouldn't continue to be a shackle weighing me down. At the same time, in the company's office area, Su Qing stared at the jumbled reports on her computer screen, her face ashen. Lin Hao stood to the side, his palms sweating profusely, feeling completely at a loss as he faced a mountain of data. Why don't the numbers add up? Didn't you say you were familiar with the entire process? Su Qing suppressed her anger and asked in a low voice. Lin Hao's voice trembled, and all his confidence had vanished. Qing, I only understand the surface-level processes for external reporting. I don't understand the underlying algorithms and risk-hedging strategies that Jian Yi handled before. Whenever there were glitches in the past, Jian Yi would quietly fix them. I never had any access to the core content. Useless. Su Qing scolded him in a low voice. It wasn't until that moment that she truly realized that all the glamour and stability of the past had been built entirely on my quiet support. She thought she was exceptionally capable and in control of everything, but in reality, she was just basking in the glory of my achievements. Lin Hao was so anxious that he kept rubbing his hands together. Qing, what should we do now? The client has already sent us a corrective action notice, and the penalty is enormous. We can't afford it. How about we ask Jiang Yi to come back? He's the only one who can save the project. Su Qing's eyes were filled with resentment. She was still convinced that I was just acting out of spite. She thought that if she just softened her tone a little and tried to coax me, I'd have a change of heart, come back to her, and keep cleaning up her messes. There's no need to rush to bow your head. She forced herself to stay calm. He's just waiting to see us make fools of ourselves on purpose, trying to force me to back down. I won't give him the satisfaction. Get the reports in order right away. Fix as much as you can, just to temporarily placate the client for now. You can't fool me. Lin Hao looked visibly troubled. The client's point of contact is extremely knowledgeable and can spot vulnerabilities at a glance. What's more, all the contingency plans were kept in Jian Yi's personal files, and he took them all with him and deleted them when he left. We don't have any backup materials. Su Qing's heart sank, and for the first time, she felt a genuine sense of panic. She realized, belatedly, that I had left without a trace, leaving her with not the slightest thing to fall back on. The chief financial officer rushed over, looking absolutely horrified. Manager Su, there's been an incident. During a financial review, it was discovered that the transfer of 5 million to Lin Hao's personal account completely violated regulations. It is strictly prohibited for individuals to collect and retransfer the special year-end bonus on behalf of others. The group's audit team is already monitoring these funds. Su Qing's pupils suddenly contracted. Everything had been going smoothly until now. Why were we suddenly investigated? When Jiang Yi was still in office, he would privately report and cover up all irregular entries. The finance manager let out a wry smile. After he left the company, all the outstanding issues came to light, and the audit has determined that these funds were allegedly misappropriated in violation of regulations. Lin Hao's legs gave way, and he nearly collapsed into his chair. Would it be okay if I refunded the money through the same payment method? A refund does not invalidate a violation that has already been established. A refund can only mitigate the penalty. The record will still remain on file. The audit will hold the person who authorized the approval accountable. Manager Su, as the direct supervisor, you will be the first to face the consequences. In a single sentence, all of Su Qing's hopes were shattered. Her professional credentials, managerial reputation, and ability to lead her team all rely on my capabilities. Without me, she's nothing. Su Qing gritted her teeth and held on. Let's contain the situation for now and prevent any information from getting out. I'll figure out a solution. The finance director nodded resignedly and left. The atmosphere in the office was oppressive and deathly quiet. Lin Hao's voice trembled with tears. Qing, we've gotten ourselves into big trouble. How about I take the initiative to admit my mistake and return the money, and hope for leniency? Su Qing clenched her fists tightly, feeling both panicked and angry. She was terrified of the impending disciplinary action and accountability, and her anger stemmed from my ruthless cutting off of all her avenues of escape. Even now, she still doesn't think she was entirely in the wrong. She just blames me for being inflexible and unwilling to compromise. Back off. Transfer the full 5 million back to Jiang Yi's account immediately. Give him his money back and see if he still has any reason to hold on to it. Even if it doesn't completely resolve the issue, it will at least defuse the situation. Lin Hao immediately processed the transfer. A message popped up on the screen saying the transfer failed. Qing, I can't turn it around. Block and disable all of Jiang Yi's payment channels, bank cards, WeChat, and company settlement channels. Su Qing shuddered and froze in her tracks. Panic completely overwhelmed her. She finally realized that I wasn't just throwing a tantrum when I moved out. I have completely severed all ties with her and with this company, leaving no room for a second chance. All the comfort and stability of the past, I was the one who provided them. When I chose to step back and distance myself, her world began to crumble. On the third day after the group's audit team officially began their on-site review at the company, the entire burden fell on Su Qing. The report on the calculation of project liquidated damages was sitting on her desk, and the audit inquiry notice was issued at the same time. With these two major events happening at the same time, she could no longer delude herself. Lin Hao sat in the chair across from him, on the verge of a nervous breakdown. He had originally thought that, with Su Qing's protection, a simple reprimand after the refund would be enough to settle the matter. It wasn't until the audit had completed its first round of interviews that he truly grasped the gravity of the situation. Qing, the audit inquiries were very thorough. Lin Hao rested his hands on his forehead, his voice hoarse. They're reviewing all financial transaction records and also retrieving the public surveillance footage from the break room. Once the surveillance footage is retrieved, our conversation from back then will be treated directly as evidence. Su Qing clenched the summons between her fingertips, creasing the edges of the paper. She had been hoping all along that the situation would blow over. They were hoping to get the 5 million back and downplay the incident as a mere internal management oversight. However, Jiang Yi cut off all payment channels, effectively blocking any possibility of a refund. Is it possible to request that the surveillance footage not be retrieved? I can't do it. Lin Hao shook his head. The audit department has the authority to access surveillance footage from public areas, and security personnel do not have the authority to delete the footage. The only way out right now is to obtain a statement of forgiveness from Jiang Yi. As long as he's willing to accept the refund, the severity of the incident can be downgraded. Su Qing picked up her phone and found that all her personal contacts had been blocked. He's blocked me on all my personal contact information. Ask a mutual acquaintance to pass on the message. Lin Hao looked up, still clinging to a sliver of hope. Contact the best man from our wedding, he's on decent terms with Jiang Yi, and asked him to help mediate. Su Qing called her friend and deliberately downplayed the seriousness of the situation. Please contact Jiang Yi for me. I'm willing to return the 5 million in full. As long as he's willing to step forward and talk, the terms are negotiable. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Su Qing, Jiang Yi gave you a heads up earlier. Don't have anyone pass on messages about the issues between you two. He doesn't want any further contact. I'd rather not get involved in the conflict between you two. The call was hung up immediately. All avenues for seeking help through personal connections have been completely cut off. Then I'll just go wait downstairs at his apartment building and talk to him in person. Su Qing picked up her coat and got ready to go out. Lin Hao hurriedly stood up to stop her. Don't do that under any circumstances. Jiang Yi has already provided his rental address to his lawyer. If you show up unannounced and a dispute arises, it could be considered harassment. The auditors are gathering evidence against us. Don't hand them any ammunition. Those words brought Su Qing to her senses, and she stopped in her tracks, caught between a rock and a hard place. External pressures continued to mount. Party A has served a formal claim letter, setting forth in black and white all losses resulting from the project getting out of control. There is unrest within the department. Many subordinates, having recognized the reality of the situation, are deliberately distancing themselves from her. The people who used to fawn over her and flatter her began to deliberately avoid her one by one. The status she once held did not stem from her own abilities. I was the one who delivered outstanding project results, and she, as my direct supervisor, reaped the glory that came with it. The cornerstone was pulled out, and the halo quickly faded. There was a knock on the office door, and the group's HR director walked in, looking serious and without his usual pleasantries. Su Qing, the group has received a large amount of feedback. The project is out of control, and the issue of improper use of funds remains unresolved. The group's preliminary decision is to suspend all of your managerial authority pending the release of the full audit report, after which further action will be taken. No final decision has been made yet. On what grounds are they suspending me from my position? Su Qing's pupils contracted. She found it hard to accept. This is a temporary risk control measure to prevent you from continuing to handle related business, and thereby increasing the risk. You have the right to appeal, but you must comply with the group's current arrangements. The HR director set down the written notice and turned to leave. A single notice stripped her of all her managerial authority. The mid-level position he had painstakingly built up over many years was now hanging by a thread. Only Su Qing and Lin Hao were left in the office. The air was stifling and oppressive. Qing, the project's been put on hold, the auditors are breathing down our necks, and we can't return the money. What should we do? Su Qing stood by the window, looking down at the street below. Panic crept in, layer by layer. She truly felt the cost of losing me. In the past, I quietly shouldered countless technical challenges and financial risks all on my own. She can act however she pleases, show favoritism toward her cronies, and speak harshly, all because she has someone to back her up. The person who was covering the losses completely pulled out, leaving all the risks to fall back on him. Yet even in such dire straits, her perception remained distorted. She didn't reflect on the fact that she shouldn't have embezzled the bonus. She just thought that as long as she could coax me back, the crisis would be resolved. As long as I return, someone will step in to save the project, the audit will result in leniency, I'll be able to keep my job, and Lin Hao will also come out of this unscathed. She began to think of a plan. If the transfer via the original route doesn't work, then I'll raise the equivalent amount of 5 million on my own to use as compensation. Use money to make a deal, and I'll come back. I've got an idea. Su Qing turned around, a look of desperation in her eyes. I'll personally come up with 5 million and offer him compensation on my own initiative. I'll call him from an unknown number and negotiate with him. Even if he blocks all my old numbers, a call from an unknown number will always go through. Lin Hao froze. Paying 5 million to get him back is too high a price. No matter how high the cost, it's better than losing my job and facing disciplinary action. Su Qing gritted her teeth. As long as he's willing to come back, we can make up for the losses later. In her view, money can heal wounds, and material benefits can win people over. She had absolutely no idea that what I really wanted was never money. In the evening, I received a call from an unknown local number on my cell phone. I had just finished a technical interview for a job in my industry when I pressed the answer button. Su Qing's voice came through the receiver. Jiang Yi, it's me. She deliberately suppressed her panic and kept her tone as steady as possible, as if she were conducting a business negotiation. I didn't interrupt. I listened quietly as she continued. I know you've blocked me on all my personal accounts. This is my new number. There are some things we need to talk through. Everything that needed to be said has already been said. There's no need to negotiate. My tone was matter-of-fact. Now that things have come to this, there's no need to close off every possible avenue. Su Qing spoke more quickly. With an audit investigation underway, massive claims against the project, and a mountain of problems weighing down on the company, Lin Hao was also on the verge of a breakdown. I don't want to let things escalate to the point where there are no winners. 5 million, I'll make it up to you. I'll personally contribute 5 million and transfer the full amount to your account. Once the funds are received, you'll issue a statement of forgiveness and drop the investigation. After that, you'll come back and continue as the project lead, and we'll go home, and life will go back to normal. She spoke as if it were only natural, as if a sum of money could wipe away all the scheming and misappropriation. It's as if, once the money is in place, the cracks in trust can be instantly mended. You're putting up 5 million, what are you trying to buy back? I asked in return. Su Qing mistakenly thought my stance was beginning to soften, and her tone became a bit more confident. Buy back your forgiveness, buy back your return to work. The project can't fall apart, I can't lose my job, and Lin Hao can't be completely ruined. This money is meant as compensation. I've made such a big concession, so I hope you'll meet me halfway. That way, either of us has to face the worst-case scenario. In other words, I spoke slowly, enunciating each word clearly. This money is in exchange for my cooperation. In exchange for my helping you cover up the violations. In exchange for me going back and continuing to shoulder all the risks for you. There's no need to put it so harshly. Su Qing's voice tightened. We're husband and wife. Why go to the trouble of gathering evidence to hold each other accountable and drive each other into a corner? I'm fully prepared to pay up. This isn't an empty promise. I can redeem the investment tomorrow and turn it into cash. That 5 million belonged to me all along. That was a special year-end bonus I earned by landing that project. You instructed Lin Hao to embezzle the money. Now that you're coughing up another 5 million as compensation, do you really think that makes it a favor you're bestowing on me? There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Su Qing's patience gradually wore thin, and her negotiating stance shifted to one of subtle coercion. Jiang Yi, be realistic. Now that you've quit your job without another one lined up and are staying home, the industry is a small world. I've already spread some negative rumors about you within the industry. Sticking to your guns won't do you any favors when it comes to finding a new job. Take the 5 million and come back to work, that's the best option for you. Are you threatening me? It's not really a threat, just a friendly reminder. Su Qing began to speak more quickly. If we fall out completely, I'll take the punishment, but don't expect to have it easy either. If we both compromise a little, it'll be good for both of us. Let's both give a little. I repeat these 4 words. Back when you let Lin Hao take my 5 million yuan bonus, did you ever consider compromising? Outside the break room, when you were so sure I'd just keep my mouth shut and give in, did you ever think to give me some leeway? Back then, you were so focused on protecting Lin Hao and saving face that you didn't give me the slightest thought. That was just a mistake on my part. I'm willing to pay to make it right. Su Qing raised her voice. Isn't paying 5 million enough to make up for my mistake in judgment? Money can compensate for material losses, but it can't buy back dignity. Su Qing was breathing heavily. Jiang, what exactly do you want? I'm willing to give you the money, I can give you your job back, and your home is still there. How far do you want me to go? Do you want me to get down on my knees and apologize? I don't need you to kneel. All I ask is that you face the consequences of your actions. Does that mean you're willing to sit back and watch me get disciplined by the company and see Lin Hao's future ruined, just to save face? It's not about proving a point. If you've done something wrong, you should own up to it. There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. She tried once again to bind me with our past relationship. We've been together for 3 years. Are you just going to dismiss everything we've been through together? You work overtime and strive so hard. Who takes care of things at home? You have all these social engagements and networking opportunities. Who helps you navigate them and lay the groundwork? Without me, you wouldn't be where you are today. I've gotten to where I am today thanks to the skills and project outcomes I've honed through countless all-nighters. Your maneuvering amounts to claiming my achievements as your own. Your management amounts to tacitly allowing my hard-earned efforts to be used to benefit your cronies. I don't care about these things. Su Qing could tell I hadn't budged an inch. The fantasy of monetary transactions she had built up began to crumble bit by bit. She was always convinced that money could solve everything. She thought that if she threw 5 million at me, I'd just go with the flow and slip back into my old ways. She never would have imagined that I never bought into that logic of the deal from the very beginning. Jiang, don't say you didn't warn me. There was a genuine tremor in her voice. If you reject this compensation, once the audit report is officially issued, many things will be irreversible. I'm not the one who should really be worried. The call wasn't hung up. On the other end of the line, Su Qing was still waiting for me to weigh the pros and cons, waiting for me to be swayed by the 5 million chips. She still lives in her own little world, convinced that money can make up for mistakes, that as long as I accept the compensation, the whole incident can be put behind us. He assumed that, since I still held some regard for our 3 years of marriage, I would eventually give in and back down. Jiang, say something. Su Qing's voice came through the receiver, as she struggled to keep her impatience in check. 5 million is right in front of you, that's the best offer I can make. Just tell me your terms. I have a complete set of copies of the evidence stored on my computer screen. Recordings from the break room, bonus agreements, and records of fund transfers, every single one is clear and complete. The lawyer has completed the notarization of all evidence and is ready to submit it to the corporate audit department at any time, while simultaneously initiating divorce proceedings. Su Qing, there's one thing you still haven't figured out. I spoke calmly, without shouting or mocking. What? The complete set of evidence obtained by the audit team has long since been notarized. Just as you were raising 5 million and planning to use the money to bribe me, my lawyer had already submitted copies of the evidence to the group's audit department. There was a brief silence on the line. A short gasp could be heard. Su Qing's voice suddenly rose. What did you say? When did you submit it? Before you called to negotiate. I wasn't waiting for your compensation, nor was I waiting for your apology. All the necessary procedures have already been completed. You're crazy! Su Qing's voice cracked. I'm even willing to pay you 5 million in compensation. Why are you still submitting evidence? The purpose of submitting evidence is not to pressure you, but to establish the facts. Are you asking me to go along with you to cover up the violation, go back and keep cleaning up your mess, and protect your and Lin Hao's futures? I can transfer every last penny to you, we can work through the project crisis together, and our marriage can still go on, so why are you trying to destroy me completely? It wasn't me who wiped them out. You're the one who set all this in motion. The outcome was already sealed the moment you turned a blind eye to Lin Hao embezzling the 5 million year-end bonus. I gave you a chance. When the truth came out in the break room, I didn't hand over the recording right then and there. And when I resigned, I didn't submit the paperwork immediately either. I was waiting for you to take the initiative to admit your mistake and resolve the matter properly. But from start to finish, all you've done is scheme and make deals. All you've ever wanted was to use money to buy my silence. Su Qing's breathing grew heavy, and she could hear the sound of chairs and tables being moved through the receiver. Her mental state completely collapsed. So, even if I brought back 5 million to you, it would be pointless? I'll never get the letter of understanding? That's right. The audit process has begun, and the evidence has been formally documented. Please understand that this cannot erase the established facts. The money can be returned to me, but the responsibility will not simply vanish. What about my job? What about Lin Hao? After 3 years of marriage and all we've been through, aren't you going to show me any consideration at all? Favors. I repeated those 2 words. You showed no mercy when you handed over my hard-earned bonus to your cronies. You showed no mercy when you were certain I was too patient to speak up, and that I wouldn't dare to make a scene. Now that disaster is looming, you're coming to me to appeal to our marital bond. It's too late. I thought 5 million could buy back everything. Su Qing murmured softly, as if talking to herself. I thought money was the most effective solution. Money cannot restore trust that has been trampled upon, nor can it undo the fact that the misappropriation has already occurred. Even today, you still don't truly understand where you went wrong. Those words were the last straw that broke her spirit. A muffled thud, as if something had broken, came from the other end of the line. Su Qing couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears. No longer the department manager who handled situations with composure, all that remained was a completely shattered sense of hope. I just want to protect the people around me. I just don't want to see everything I've worked so hard to build over the years go to waste. The sound of intermittent sobbing drifted over. I never thought things would get this far. Jiang Yi, please, I'm begging you, can we start over? The foundation for starting over is sincerely acknowledging one's mistakes. Even now, all you care about is the status and future you've lost. You've never once cared about the hard work that was taken from me. So what am I supposed to do then? Su Qing almost shouted. You won't be satisfied until I lose my job and my reputation is ruined, is that it? Take on whatever responsibilities you need to. This isn't my revenge. It's the outcome this situation was always meant to have. All that could be heard through the receiver was her uncontrollable sobbing. All causes and effects have their own natural course. News travels fast in the industry, and no company was willing to offer her a mid-level management position anymore. On the day of the divorce hearing, I ran into Su Qing in the court hallway. Her makeup looked haggard, her eyes were bloodshot, and she no longer had the air of confidence she once had as a corporate executive. He held the case files in his hands, his fingertips trembling uncontrollably. The trial is fast approaching. As they entered the courtroom, the evidence was presented piece by piece. The bonus agreement, bank transfer records, and a complete recording from the break room were played in court. The judge ruled that the 5 million year-end bonus constituted my personal earnings, and that Su Qing was at significant fault for assisting others in misappropriating this property during our marriage. The final judgment ruled that the marital home would be awarded to me, that our joint savings would be divided according to the proportion of fault, and that Su Qing would bear joint and several liability for the recovery of a portion of the funds. Those who have done wrong are paying the price, while I have long since set out on the path that belongs to me. Those wounds that once cut deep into my heart have, over time, slowly scabbed over and healed. For the rest of my life, I will never look back on that rotten chapter of my past.